Very good morning, and you are welcome to the Leadership Wednesday show right here on your favorite channel, MBCI TV. We are so glad to have this particular show again, and of course, welcoming you from wherever you are watching and from wherever you are tuning in. It is on Wednesday, all matters leadership, and trying to shape the conversation on the right leadership, and of course, giving you an opportunity to also contribute into making our leadership better and better. As we always say, it rises and falls on leadership, and therefore it is important that we discuss the different aspects of leadership in the country. And of course, we are going today to focus on leadership as far as the youth and skills is concerned. Of course, we know that the youth in the country have been making and hitting the headlines for over 1 month now, and of course, everyone is talking about the young generation. So today we want to look at the youth, the skills, of course, the opportunities, and of course the leadership that is required to ensure that their issues are well addressed, their issues are well looked into, and that is going to be our discussion as we continue with our show today. And of course, we have a question that we've also put out for you. What are some of the measures that you think need to be put into place to address the challenges currently facing the young generation? What are some of the issues? What are some of the measures? What are some of the steps that you think or you believe need to be put into place, need to be put into consideration, need to be given the priority that they deserve to ensure that the young generation are well taken care of, or actually that their challenges, especially the challenges they are facing currently, are actually looked into and considered and also addressed. You can feel free to share with us your thoughts, your opinions, and your views on this very important and critical subject and critical discussion that we are going to have. You can share with us on 23814, that is for our shortcode platform. It is free of charge, and of course you can also get us on our social media pages, that is MBCI TV for Facebook, and of course also MBCI TV official for YouTube. We'll be glad to also see what do you think needs to be done as far as the issues that pertains to the young generation, the issues that are actually being confronted by the young generation, and what you think maybe needs to be done to ensure that those particular issues are actually looked into. As we continue with this particular discussion, of course, we'll be able also to see what is your take, what is your opinion, and what is your perspective on the same. Today we're going to have the show with my co-host, that is Bwana Paul Kagi. I can already see he is in the house. Karibu sana. Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Asante sana Mangicho, and I believe that you are yes. Morning is fine.
Sure. It's quite a chilly morning.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It was a surprise, having come from a very warm climate.
Right.
Now we are at a very cold, again, July climate.
Yeah, of course, definitely. No, and July is mostly known for being very cold.
Yes.
I think it is now our winter in this part of the world. Yes.
Yeah, and of course, this time around is when you find some farmers are going back to their farms.
Sure.
Because after this cold weather, we also experience some short rains, which can also be useful to increase our yields in our farms, and also our food security.
Absolutely.
I've seen in the papers that the government is also working on substrate fertilizer.
Right.
Yes.
I think that is going to be a very important and very relevant step that can actually benefit so many of our farmers, because we know at least we are talking about a population that is, I think, 60 or maybe 70%.
Yes.
Those who may be practicing farming. So when we have favorable circumstances, at least there is a lot of hope.
Yeah, it's our belief that even farmers are going to embrace that program, whereby it has been a big headache to many farmers when it comes to planting, because of the way the fertilizer is very expensive.
Sure.
But with the new program of fertilizer, it is going to help even farmers to increase on their yields in their farms and to do more farming.
Absolutely.
Because we need food security in our nation, right?
Yeah, when we have food security, then at least we can be sure that it has done quite a lot in terms of even maybe curbing the other challenges that may be facing us as a nation.
Yeah, and what is needed more on the issue of the substrate fertilizer, is to bring it more closer to the people.
Yeah.
Because if you could look at the beginning of this year, when we were buying that fertilizer, even though there was a data which was collected to ensure every farmer can access that fertilizer, the challenge was it was very far from their locality. You're moving very far to go and get that fertilizer. Not only getting that fertilizer, but also to go and book for that fertilizer. So there need to be a more relaxed, a more efficient method of acquiring this fertilizer.
Sure.
Even for those who don't have permanent farms. For example, I might have maybe leased a farm. You see, when you are registering for that farm to get fertilizer, you must take your, I think, ID or something, the title deed or something.
Yeah.
But if you have leased a land, you don't have the title deed with you, there must be even a way to be able to help everybody to get a fertilizer. Or maybe you're having the kitchen garden.
Yeah.
There are many people who are relying on a kitchen garden.
Kitchen garden, sure.
For their daily sukuma wikis.
Yes.
It's part of food security.
Absolutely. I agree with you, because I think those are some of the challenges that we had from quite a number of farmers, that in as much as they were very much willing to actually get some of this subsidized fertilizer, but I think the procedure, the process, it was quite complex, quite complicated, and even
very
I think
tedious.
Quite a number of them they lost hope along the way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you go and there is a very, very long queue. Sometimes you go and maybe you're told even maybe your name was not captured well and you cannot actually get. And remember, this is something that you also need to do within a particular period of time. Because maybe you cannot wait for so long. You'll have found maybe your peers have already gotten ahead.
And many people believe the issue of fertilizer is only for the maize farmers. But that is not the case. We have guys who do wheat farming. They need this fertilizer, the DAP, and also the top dressing, or the CAN in a simpler language. Those people who do the coffee farming, they also need a sort of fertilizer, especially for top dressing, to increase the manure of their soil. And also those guys who do coffee farming, they also need that fertilizer.
Absolutely.
So it is a huge project that can be, when it is supported, it can really help us. But again, away from now trying to help farmers to go to their farms with subsidized fertilizer, I saw it at the beginning of this year. There was somewhere I was planting some maize, and I saw the other challenge that we are having is with the seedlings. You can have a fertilizer which is cheaper, but also you're having a challenge of buying the seedling.
Absolutely.
For example, if you're having 2 acres of land or maybe 1 acre of land, you require a lot of several kgs of those seeds, but they are very expensive. Very expensive. So there must be a formula whereby on this hand, when we are providing cheaper fertilizer, on the other hand, we should also provide cheap seedlings for the farmers. Because you can acquire, many of them acquired the fertilizer, but could not be able to acquire the seedlings.
The seedlings, exactly.
And therefore there must be this balance. If it is to boost farmer to go and do farming, then it should be the whole project should be done by those who are involved.
Absolutely.
And with seedlings, it's very simple. If I could recall some years back, the government used to farm those seedlings in Trans Nzoia County and Uasin Gishu County, especially Trans Nzoia County. The government had farms, or it could give some contracts to some farmers to go and plant those seedlings to sell to the public.
Absolutely.
But now the situation is, as much as we want to get the right seedlings, but corrupt business people are very many.
Absolutely.
They go and pick any maize, and then they are going to, they paint the maize, and then they sell to the farmers. Maybe you think you are buying XXX type of maize, which is good for the soil where you live, only to come and realize is a different, is not a graded seedling.
Absolutely. Those are very vital loopholes, Kagi, that need to be fixed, because once we allow those kind of loopholes to thrive, then it basically will water down even some of the strides, some of the gains that maybe the government and other stakeholders have actually acquired or they've actually obtained. And agriculture is a very, very major sector. Actually, we are also actually even going to address it with the topic that we are talking about today, youth skills and leadership. Because I think for a long time, we've had a scenario whereby maybe most of our young generation have not been given an opportunity to embrace agriculture. But I think it is an area, if we were now to focus so much in what maybe we need to do to ensure that most of our young generation, because it's more of also as a self-employment avenue. So that you can just find yourself that if you're given the right infrastructure, if you're given the right skills, then you'll find that most of our young generation, most of our youth, if they were to venture into those areas, they'll do very well.
The only they need to get is support from the government.
Exactly.
And the other organizations which support young people, because we have different programs that support young people. Absolutely. If we support them in agriculture, I think it is going to be very prudent. I know we are going to dig deep in that topic, maybe after the break.
Maybe after the break.
But also, I know also we are going to incorporate. Yesterday there were some demonstrations all over the country. And sometimes it is difficult to call them demonstrations or something else, because I was looking at the papers this morning and I found that yesterday in many towns there were two sets of people. In fact, like three. In Nairobi, some people decided to guard their businesses because of the people who come along the way to loot their businesses, or the so-called goons. And they were armed with rungus in Nairobi. But also in other towns.
I also saw, I think, Kakamega County. I also saw Kericho. And I think last week, I don't know whether it was last week or last week, but when we had the previous demonstrations, I think something similar also took place in Uasin Gishu County.
True. And yesterday something again was very queer. Some governors decided to use the same guys to guard their offices. The word went that the youth wanted to go and say hi to governors. And the governors had to look for a way to protect their premises. So most of the offices or governor offices were protected by guys who had some rungus yesterday, not even, sometimes policemen, sometimes those guys. And because of that, you see there are two people who are on the streets. The young generation, the Gen Zs, and also the goons who are on the streets. The two sets of people. And I was thinking about how ugly it could turn up if again these two groups of people decide to attack each other. It will be even bad the way anybody could be able to imagine. And this happens in South Africa. Because South Africa, we have such kind of arrangements whereby we have sets of group of young people who come to the streets to do this or that, and sometimes they clash, and that clash sometimes results into death.
Absolutely. And you know, Kagi, I think just as you are saying, I think one of the major issues that is leaving a lot of Kenyans baffled is at what particular point, because we know there are security apparatus, we have security personnel who are supposed to ensure that they ensure that there is the maintenance of law and order, to ensure that there is the protection of lives, and that there is also the protection of property. That is their mandate. That is what they are actually obligated to do. So, of course, we also know, as we've always said in this particular show, there is the provision of what we call peaceful picketing. It's actually enshrined in the Constitution. Those who want to do it, so long as they do it within the parameters of the law, they are actually supposed to do that. And now the security personnel to be in a position to guard them and to ensure. Unfortunately, maybe in some scenarios, the demonstrations, the protests have turned out to be ugly. Maybe because of another group or a different group that now maybe comes with a hidden agenda or with the wrong motive.
They take advantage.
They take advantage of that, which is quite unfortunate, because we agree that there are those genuine concerns that have been raised by the young generation. Very valid. And of course, I think it is because they are valid. That is why we've even had the government, the president also maybe conceding to some of those particular issues that the young generation wanted. But be that as it may, I think to permit other people to come and to disguise as maybe those who want, or in the pretext that they also want to gather businesses, I think it is quite tricky.
Yes.
It can actually lead to because one may want to ask who has given them that permission, under what law. Where did they even get those particular weapons?
And that one remains also the big question, where are these guys getting this strength from? Because the way they are operating, you could easily see as if they're having a certain backup. But the most important thing is that so far so good, the president has had the young people. That is very positive. In other countries, the president could stand on his ground and become undermined. That he is not going to respond to anybody because he has the powers. But the way the president is behaving too low to accommodate the reasoning and also the recommendations and the wishes of the young people. So far he has done it.
Yes, and I think there is one thing, Kagi, that at the moment, maybe we really need now to find out where do we move to as a country. Because, like you've said, there are quite a number of steps, quite a number of measures that we saw the president taking. Something like the budget of the first lady and the budget of the second lady of the country, that one has been shelved. Of course, we saw the cabinet was dismissed. I know we're going to discuss about that. So there are quite a number of steps that he took. So I think from yesterday, it was not very clear. Now, what are these demonstrations about again?
Yes, very true. Very true. Very true. Even in online, you could not identify exactly what now they are pushing for. But there it was very clear. But yesterday there was no solid recommendation that they are pushing for in the next stage of the demonstration.
Sure. Because I think that is now something that we really need to know. What exactly now? What else do we really? What else do we need? And I think there was a time we had the president talking about the importance of having dialogue. I think there was also the establishment, or there was the word about the establishment, I think, of a task force, or I think of a team that would comprise, I think, 100 people or 150 years. But I think it has not kicked.
Not yet.
It has not kicked off.
It's supposed to be very soon.
So I think if we were to get some results, and if we were to actually get some breakthrough, I think we must. It's important for us to embrace dialogue.
But also something happened yesterday, which I think it was a little bit disturbing in our profession, whereby one of us was attacked by the security officers and was injured through a bullet, who is still getting treated in the hospital. It was really disturbing situation because when the media are on the ground working, whatever, their main purpose is to pass information to the public. And there must be that respect between every other profession. The security officers, as much as they are doing their duties, journalists must respect them. And also on the other end, it is a win-win situation. Also, the security officers must respect the profession of journalists. And yesterday's situation made me to flash back. Many years back, there was some times when journalists used to be harassed by security and the government, and many of them went for exile. One of the people who went for exile is the renowned novelist, Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who left the country because of such kind of scenarios, because of the problem with the freedom of expression and also the media freedom. We are not complaining because of that, but we are saying it's also important to respect the media, because media is very, very important. There was a time during Uhuru's regime, the day, I think, after or hours after the swearing of the people's president, the Baba himself. And he managed to switch off all the media houses, especially the 4 mainstream media houses. And I think we can try to flash back what happened that time if any country, any regime decides to cut off media, how it would happen. You see? You know, that one is total darkness, whereby you don't receive any information. You don't get any update from anywhere. Even government itself finds it difficult to be able to communicate to the people.
Yes.
And therefore, the situation of harassing journalists in line with their duty, I think it's not right.
It's not right, Kagi. Yeah, it was quite unfortunate what we saw with one of our colleagues by the name Wanjeri Kariuki, and right in the full glare of the cameras.
Yes.
And it is very, very evident that the bullet was actually addressed to her. It was like it was pointed at her.
In fact, there were 3.
Yeah, directly. And one wonder what could have been the motive behind the security official who did that.
Yeah.
I think it is important, and everyone would agree, any right-minded Kenyan would want to agree that it is important. We know we are a democracy.
Yes.
There is the freedom of information, and the role of the journalist is basically to present the information as it is. But if we have a feeling that maybe there are some forces out there to muzzle the role of the media, okay, the voice of the media, I think it would actually really bring back, and it would actually water down a lot of gains that we've made throughout the years in terms of ensuring that people can access information, people can actually express themselves. And I think that was very unfortunate, and we've seen quite a number of Kenyans, media houses, actually even as we are talking, I think we have a lot of our journalists now also protesting against that brutality. I think one of the other things that is unfortunate, Kagi, is when we have a scenario like this, and we don't see the culprit being brought to book. Because this is an individual who I think if they were to trace him, if they were to actually be willing to find them and to arrest them and to make them accountable, it would be easy. But you can just imagine, there's a journalist who has been injured, someone who was undertaking her duties responsibly.
With all the
actually, she had
attires.
worn even professional attires were on. So it is not like something that we can say there was some confusion or there was some mistaken identity. Okay, so we really want to see how some of these agencies, some of these security personnel, and this is where also IPOA comes in. I remember the guest that we had yesterday talking about the Independent Police Oversight Authority. This is the time that they need not come in very well, because if we don't see an action being taken, then in some way it is like it legitimizes what we saw yesterday. And other perpetrators will of course they'll of course feel that if there was no action that was taken previously, we can still continue. And that is now what builds, that is what now brings about what we call impunity.
And one of the things that makes Kenya to become a vibrant society is the freedom of and power of media. And if this vibrancy is not guarded, then we can easily find ourselves going back, as we have just said, to where we have come from. But again, I think we have gotten into somewhere, Kenyans are so used to media, the public, that I don't think it is easy also to gang media. It is not even easy. Even during that time when the medias were being shut down, there was a lot of pressure from the international organizations like UN, like UNHCR. They were very vocal in condemning the government for shutting down media. And again, the issue of attacking media, because there were a lot of condemnation all over the world because of that incident, should be condemned by everybody. Because we need to know what is happening in our country, not only in politics. Media is very vibrant all over. Even in, for example, where we are in maybe preaching the gospel, media is also very vibrant.
Exactly. You can imagine the number of people that consume what we air on a daily basis, and maybe how it affects their lives. Okay. So one of those particular areas, as you've said, is information giving. And therefore, when you see now something like what happened yesterday, one would want to think that maybe there is some agenda, maybe to ensure that the media does not perform its role.
Yes.
But I think with how we've seen so many Kenyans coming out to condemn that particular act, to condemn that particular atrocities, we want to hope. Of course, it should have already happened. I think by now we should have been told who was the culprit behind, and of course the necessary action being taken.
Yeah.
But similarly, something else also happened yesterday during the demonstration that was also quite unfortunate, whereby we also saw some of these officers also getting into some of the sanctuaries. I think that was quite unfortunate. So I think as we move forward, it's important for us, and that's why we still emphasize the importance of having dialogue, the importance of Kenyans being in a position to talk. Because if you were to just leave the things to continue like this, Kagi, I think as a country, we're going to lose a lot. Because I was just imagining, yesterday you'd see in most of our cities, businesses again were shut down.
Affecting our economy in a big way.
Yes. And I am just trying to imagine what is the message that we are sending out there. And just as you said, we are in the era of access of information is just very, very conspicuous. And whatever it is that is happening in Kenya is being consumed by someone who is in USA, someone who is in Canada, someone who is in Germany.
In fact, if there is a country which is being followed globally this time around, it's Kenya.
Yes.
All over the world. Everybody in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, in Caribbean, all over.
People are making references with Kenya.
A lot on what is happening here. But sometimes they are following us, sometimes on a good or bad reasons. It depends on how they are picking it from here.
Absolutely, yeah. So if we were to look in line with investment, and investment plays a very big role in terms of actually raising the economy of a country. Because these people, when they come here and they establish these businesses, they establish some of these facilities, you can imagine the amount of money they pour into those kind of investment, the employment opportunities that they create for Kenyans. But I was just wondering, now when they see these images outside there, as an investor, definitely you're going to shy off.
Of course, that is going to happen.
Number one issue that an investor wants to be assured is peace, tranquility.
Yes.
Okay, because if there is no peace, then it basically means his investment will not have any returns. Okay,
and this one happens, Mangicho, when we are in dire need for those investors. We really need them seriously because of the challenges of unemployment. Unless we come together as a nation and try to quickly resolve our issues, because whatever we do, there must be a solution.
Right.
There must be a solution. And if you look at our history as Kenya, wherever we find ourselves in a very bad crisis, we come together and talk. That is what I have seen.
It's true.
Every time when we find ourselves in any situation, we come together and talk and resolve our issues. Even without going very far, the times of post-election violence, 2007, 2008, we were in a very, very unfortunate situation in our country, whereby we were fighting each other. But we thank God for the African community, which came on board to help us to solve our differences. But by coming together with an effort of the late Kofi Annan, we are able to agree, and the country moved forward.
Absolutely.
You see?
Yes.
Even when the Uhuru came in with His Excellency Ruto, and there was differences between the two camps of political arena, there was also again a time when they felt we need to talk with the chief opposition leader, and then we solved our problem. So every time when there's a problem in our country, when we come together, we find a solution.
We find a solution. That is absolutely true, Kagi. And of course, we'll come back with much more.
Yes.
I think we'll also talk about, I think the other day the president was in County of Nakuru. He launched quite a number of projects.
Yes.
Of course, also made quite a number of statements. We'll be able to look into that. Even as we continue also to tackle our main area of discussion today, that is youth, skills, of course, opportunities, and leadership. And we're asking you, what do you think are some of the measures that need to be put into place to address the challenges, especially the current challenges facing the young generation in the country. 23814, social media pages, Facebook, MBCI TV, YouTube, MBCI TV official. We still have much for you on the second part of this particular conversation. Don't go far away.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Kwa flag ya Kenya kuna mnyama mgani?
It's about to go down.
Na flamingo, lions, lions.
Mtoto umbwa anaitwaje?
Shut up everybody. Listen.
Dogi.
What? Mtoto umbwa anaitwaje?
Kaumbwa. Kaumbwa, nini kadogo.
Umesema nini kwa? Unataka kuambia mtu kwa kizungu niko na fuliza. Utamwambiaje kwa kizungu?
I have fua.
Utamwambiaje?
I have fua.
So we don't have the capacity.
Umati ni wa watu na mkururo.
Shut up everybody. Listen.
Wasiafu. Wasiafu.
Red lorry, yellow lorry.
Hey y'all, come look at this.
Red lolly, yellow lolly. Red lolly, yellow lolly. Huh? Yellow lolly.
Baada yake sababu mayai imekuwa imeiva inafaa minutes only 10 minutes. Ndio iko sawa. Okay. Unaweka katikati hapo. Yeah, katikati. Sasa hapo unaweza kuweka vitu zako vile unafaa. Kurembesha ama kudecorate ya chakula yako.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back, and we are still so much delighted that you are with us on the Leadership Wednesday show right here on your favorite channel, MBCI TV. So many of our followers and also so many of our fans watching this particular program from across the country and also beyond the globe, and we are very, very much appreciative. We have one of our fans, Kagi, by the name Kibo Wen.
Yes.
He's an athlete in this particular country, a very, very famous athlete. And he's saying that he's really enjoying the show. Thank you so much. He's watching from Eldoret. We really appreciate. Of course, remember, we've asked you a question. What do you think are some of the measures that need to be put into place to address the challenges, particularly the current challenges facing the young generation? Of course, we've always said we cannot wish them away. They comprise 70% of our population. So you can imagine this is a very, very integral part, a very, very integral group in the country. And of course, we need to seize the moment and be in a position to see what is it that needs to be done to ensure that some of the issues that they are raising are actually well taken care of and they're actually put into consideration. So share with us your views, share with us your thoughts, and of course we'll also be glad to also see what are some of your reflections on the same. Of course, Kagi, we were talking about the issue of ensuring that journalists are also given the space that they need. Of course, it's also important for us. We know with the free media, of course, we have nowadays what we call the bloggers.
Yes.
And of course, we maybe not have what we can call objective bloggers.
Very true.
But I think as far as those who are doing the right journalism, it is important for them to be given the space that to do is vital for them.
And because of the vibrancy of our media today, and we have a lot of what we call the citizen journalism, whereby anybody can just do something and post in social media and the public can consume, it's also good to embrace that one, because that one is uncontrollable. unless we have a very, very heavy and serious some controls. But if you don't have them, you still consume a lot of fake news, a lot of unseen news from the public. But also, I have seen some updates that also one of the renowned journalists in Kenya called Gaido, Macharia Gaido, was also picked from his home, but also as he was driving, heading, I think, to town or something. But again, he has been released. He's been released. But also, they are saying it's because of the mistaken identity. But also, it is a call to alarm. Exactly. Because you don't know how, because everybody knows Macharia Gaido. Sure. He has his own trademark. Everybody knows him. He is renowned. You know how he keeps his hair. He is an elderly man. So there's no way you can be able to maybe say that you don't know him. I think also police, before they go arrest someone, they have their photos. Yeah, and I think because now this Kagi is also coming, at a time now we've been hearing about these abductions. And interestingly, they are coming from the security apparatus. They're coming from the police officers. I was not even, I was not imagining that we can associate the word or the term abduction with the police officers. Because I think what police officers are supposed to do is to arrest. And maybe at some point, even maybe to issue summons. That maybe if they feel they have something with a particular person, maybe for what maybe they believe they have done, they can summon them. But abductions are supposed to be done by criminals. But apparently in the recent past, that is what we've been seeing, and it's quite unfortunate. Because, and the danger of abductions is one. Although it is being associated with the security officers, other people might also try to be creative and come up with their own way, the gangsters or thugs, to start abducting people. Because some of them even owe police attires illegally. They can use those formulas to abduct people. You know, sometimes you don't know whether it is police who is arresting you, abducting you, or are the criminals. And criminals like taking advantage of any situation, like the issues of demonstrations. They are taking advantage and looting other people's businesses. The same way, I think police need to work in a more civilized manner to gain respect from the public. Because the way they are moving now, the way they are moving that formula, it is going to incite public again. You know, there has been a long debate on the community policing, whereby we need to work with police as a community to harmonize our relationship with police because they are our brothers and sisters. But again, if they start behaving in a way that is not exciting public, then we are going to water down all the gains we have managed in terms of community policing. So I think it is important, and of course we'll be able to look and find out and try to hope that that one will actually be fixed, that particular issue. And as we speak, so many of our journalists are today out there, they're protesting against that heinous act that was committed yesterday. Going to believe that the authorities also from the security personnel, they'll be able to assure us that the one who committed that particular offense will actually be brought to book. Yes. So Kagi, I know we after our last week's program, I think on Wednesday, then I think we had the president coming out to also dismiss the entire cabinet. Okay. And as we speak, I think that is something that was quite a shock. Of course, I think people knew that, or people expected that he would maybe change a number of the cabinet secretaries. But most people were not really expecting. They thought of a reshuffle.
Yeah, a reshuffle, kind of. But he dismissed the entire cabinet. And of course, there is a lot of talk, Kagi, about how that particular cabinet performed, and whether the president was disappointed by every cabinet secretary in that particular team, or it was a situation whereby some of the cabinet members were collateral. And of course, people are asking and people are finding out, because I think right now it is all about the talk of who is now going to be appointed
in the cabinet.
People are wondering, are there any possibilities, are there any probabilities that maybe there are those who would actually make it back to that particular, or back to cabinet? Yes.
I would say, Mangicho, that one of the things that informed the Bomas team, which came up with the new constitution, was to come up with a team that is going to help the executive to perform its duties. If you go to the constitution, you'll find that one of the clauses that were removed from that is appointing a cabinet from the parliament.
Yeah.
The constitution didn't allow the president to appoint a cabinet from the group of members of National Assembly. And that one was one of the ways to eradicate. It was one way of saying that the cabinet should not be comprising politicians. It was another language of saying it's not going to bring politicians in the cabinet. And the first term of President Uhuru and Deputy William Ruto, they were very keen on that. If you could recall, they appointed their cabinet from a group of technocrats, period. People we have never heard about, only very few people we didn't know about, but some of them really did an extraordinary work.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes the problem with politicians, I think that is what has eaten the president right now. If you look at his cabinet, it is comprising, I think, more than half of politicians. And some of them, they have their own political ambitions. Maybe to become presidents in future, to become kingpins in future, to become governors, and so on and so forth. And therefore, when they are there, they are trying to dig their political base. That is their main agenda. But if you look at the technocrats, who in their operations, their mind is always focused in public service delivery. So I feel that one of the things that I could say, we say in every challenge, any challenge should help you to grow and to move on. Even though the president has a big challenge because of the pressure from the young people, on the other hand, I think he has been relieved because he felt these guys are letting me down. But it was difficult for him to drop one of them because of the fireworks. But now, that was a very wise decision, that everybody should go home. And then when they go home, it is within his prerogative to decide when to elect the cabinet. Remember when Kibaki, again, sent his whole cabinet home, he stayed for 2 weeks without a cabinet. He may decide, I want to take a month to read the mood of public, to be able to understand what the public wants, to understand how the young people want. For example, I was checking here, and yesterday and the day before yesterday, the young people are very categorical that if the president is going to appoint a new cabinet, we need people who are going to help the executive to deliver services to the people. People who are going to make our country to move forward. You see? So such kind of feedback coming from public, they are very, very important to him. They will help him to make the right decision. And if he's going to extend the time of appointing the cabinet, you should not be in a hurry. The PSs are there, and the ministries are running smoothly. You should take enough time to understand exactly what does the youth, not only the youth, the public want in terms of appointing cabinet. And maybe the last point, he is 2 years now after he took presidency or leadership of the country. He is remaining with around 3 years before the next elections. We are talking about 3 years.
After like 2.5.
Or 2.5. To perform and to do something for because public are demanding services. Okay? So he must be very keen to get someone who are very quick, people who are focused in helping him to deliver his manifesto, and also to maybe clean the messes which has been done by the other team of cabinet.
I totally agree with you, actually, Kagi, what you're saying, especially the issue of politicization of some of the cabinet secretaries. I think that was quite unfortunate.
Yes.
And I think I'm also of the opinion that we need to have technocrats as far as the cabinet positions are concerned. And I totally agree that we have some of those cabinet secretaries that they felt entitled, okay? And they thought that they could do anything and get away with it because from the onset they believed that they really helped the president, maybe to get the votes or maybe to win the presidency and so on and so forth, which is quite unfortunate. Maybe the president would not have gotten a better opportunity to deal with those kind of cabinet secretaries, but there we go. The youth came, and from that particular pressure, I think, just as you've put it, that was a very, very interesting and a very relevant and a very nice way and a very nice chance for him now to have let them to have let them go. And most people have said that maybe we didn't really look so much. There was no much consideration of the expertise.
Yes, true.
It was more of a reward. And you
rewarding the cronies.
Yeah, rewarding the cronies. Okay, that you helped me in this, you helped me in that. There is what you did, maybe even others financially, and so on and so forth. But if you are to look now at the expense, what price do we pay? Okay. What price do we pay if we don't look at the expertise of someone? Instead, we look at rewarding the cronies, rewarding them maybe for how they helped you. It becomes very, very burdensome. It becomes very heavy for a country because these are people. So I totally agree that this time round, maybe what will be done will be very different because you cannot miss it twice. And even the president cannot imagine that the second team that he's going to come up with can fail him. Because even there are those who are arguing that letting all the cabinet secretaries go home is like actually telling us that you have no confidence in your government, okay? Because that is a very, very big team. Unless maybe we are saying that those who are going to come back, of course, we are going to see. But more importantly is now the team that is going to come up with. We are looking forward to people who are not also tainted as far as corruption is concerned.
That's very, very key.
Because like what happened in the agricultural sector, it was quite unfortunate, and the case was taken up to Parliament. Okay.
It was decided.
Yeah, but it was decided again because of political interest. We saw no action that was going to be taken. So I think this time round it is important for us to ensure that we do what is possible, and let's also hope that the president will be advised well, especially to look into the matters of the young generation.
Yeah, again, the issue of the lenient cabinet is very, very important. To have a small number which can be able to perform. Yeah. Because like this one, it was very huge. I think 22. There were very many. And there's a caveat that is given by the Constitution on the minimum. And Kenyans are pushing for the minimum.
Yeah, Kenyans are pushing for the minimum.
And that is where things are. You need to get the right people, around 15 people, to help him to do his duties. The good thing with the ministries, the minister or the cabinet secretary does not work alone.
Sure.
And then the CS wants to work alone. There's a whole team.
Yeah.
The whole team that works with ministers or the CSs in the ministry.
Sure.
So if they can be able to work together in their ministries, it is very easy to perform, right? And also you need also to check on other areas. Not only on the CSs, you need to go back even to the PS because they are the executive officers in the ministry on their performances.
Sure.
You need to be very keen on who is managing, the CS who is managing the, not CS, but the PS who is managing the Ministry of Education, the CS who is managing the Ministry of Agriculture, to have the right people in those ministries, even the PSs. Because if you have the right CS and you have the right PS in a ministry, I think things could run better.
Yeah.
I really admire the times of Matiang'i in the Ministry of Education when they came in the first term, where we had guys like Belio Kipsang, who has been in the ministry for long. The combination of Belio Kipsang and Matiang'i in the first term of Uhuru Kenyatta, it was very, very, very successful.
It's true.
Okay?
It's true. And I think just to add on that, because we're talking also about youth and opportunities and, of course, the skills. So even the cabinet secretaries that we are having, let us see even from their qualification. Let us see also from their CVs. Let us also see maybe from the visions that they have. Because the main thing right now is to address the youth agenda in the country. So this person who we are bringing on board, if you're fixing a cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, let us be able to see very visibly what is it that he wants to articulate as far as the youth agenda in his ministry is concerned. How does he think agriculture can turn around the lives of the 70% of our population, this being the youth? What does he think? Okay, because we cannot put you there then you begin how to think. You should have already been in a position to see what is it that you can be able to do. If it is in the education sector, I think this is one of the areas that most Kenyans had a problem, especially if they were to compare the recent cabinet secretary compared to the previous, Professor George Magoha, and also Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Because education is very important. Majority of our youth have been complaining that they are going to schools, they're going to colleges, some of them having a lot of challenges, even in their state of affairs in the schools being looked into. And of course, coming out and maybe they fail to get some of those opportunities. So we need to have a cabinet secretary who can be able to be very clear, be very solid in terms of what he thinks can be done to ensure that we have seamless transition from some of our youth from their schools, from their colleges, up to the job market. So visionaries. What we're basically talking about is people who are visionaries. And Kagi, because we live in a digital area, I think as a country, Kenya is so much blessed to have a very, very powerful human resource. Well-educated, people who can really think. In fact, most of the other countries, when they want to have human resource, one of the countries that they actually look into is Kenya. That's why we have a lot of people, a lot of our people now working in some of these other countries.
And Mangicho was very shocked. I didn't know this, that our young people really follow politics and also the way government operate. Anybody who is going to work in a public office from now henceforth, you must sit down and think on how you are going to change your tactic or your operations, because the people that you are serving are very different. You are serving a very huge, as we have said, educated, learned, intelligent, and vibrant young people. And they are really following every detail, right? Because this one has been our main problem as a nation, the issue of unemployment. Then the government or the president or whoever who is in public office, we must all of us pull together to look for a lasting solution on the situations of unemployment. Because if you just ignore it like that every year we're having a surge of young people who are at home, you don't have a job, you don't do business, you are right at home. Every year, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, that is 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. That is a very serious time bomb. And everybody, no one is safe.
Absolutely, Kagi. And I think that is why we've even seen so many of our youth, they are now turning the pressure on the county governments. Because of course we started initially as a pressure towards the national government, but of late now you've seen now the pressure, the tide is now moving to the county government, because again I think we are losing it. We are losing it at the county levels. Okay, I think quite a number of governors have actually been confronted with some of this truth. I think actually yesterday a number of Kenyans were surprised because in Baringo the governor there was confronted. I think also in Nyamira. So Because some of these young people are just wondering. We were told that devolution came to ensure that we have some of these services being devolved, but there is still very little to show. The number of opportunities that actually you can even see in the county is negligible.
They're very
in a whole year. Okay, so you wonder. So this person who has been put into leadership, what are they thinking about? What is it that they are doing if they cannot actually think about the opportunities that young people should actually get?
And not only the governors, because we have many set of our governors from the ward level. Even from the ward level, we should have our programs to help young people. Because within the ward, the county or the MCA understands more about his locality. We have a member of parliament who also can do something about the young people. But you see, all of us, what we do is, like a member of parliament, we want to use a CDF to prepare for him and thinking about how he's going to become a member of parliament for the next 10, 15 years. But no one comes up with a program, a specific program to boost young people, even if it is not the whole group, but at least to have a starting point where we are helping our young people to move. We might not have the white-collar jobs.
Absolutely.
It might be difficult because there are very many. But what are the alternatives of helping them? The main challenge of our young men and women, my observation, is lack, away from the white-collar jobs, there are others who don't want white-collar jobs.
Sure.
You know, young people want to move faster. And they know the only thing to move faster is to do your stuff. What they lack away from the digital platform, they don't have an access to resources to start something or maybe an entrepreneurship. If they could get something to start entrepreneurship, for example, don't even go too far. Farming, a very simple one, whereby you go to your parent and talk to them to give you a space to put like 10 hens. And personally, I say I'm a practical example. I remember when I finished Form 4, I thought of how I'm going to make some coins from home before I go to college. And I approached my parents because I thought the only easiest thing I could do is to do a small farming.
Right. And
I approached my parents. I'm right from Form 4. I don't have any money. And tomato farming requires a lot of money because of the buying seedlings and also because of the pesticides. And I requested my parents to give me a piece of land. It was not big, a piece of land to do some tomato farming. They gave me money to go and buy seedlings. They gave me some, also allowed to support me from the milk we were selling, also to buy what? Some pesticides. And by the time those potatoes were maturing, I was really shocked. Because of the support of financial support, I was able to get my own income right from Form 4.
Wow.
And that is where the problem is. Because some of these young people are very vibrant.
Yes.
And they know what they want. But the challenge is they don't have anybody to support them with what they call the capital. Na si lazima ikuwe a million. A little.
Sure.
5,000, 10,000. And they can be able to move on. Just that small support. Their parents might be not having that opportunity. But through the government programs and other partners, we can pull together and mobilize resources and also some training. If you go to all our colleges in Mangicho, they teach entrepreneurship. From the tertiary institutions, that is from the TVET institutions, to the universities, they teach entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship education. Why? To be able to prepare them to go and do business if you want to do business. Or if you employ him in your company, he has that knowledge to manage business.
Exactly.
But why should we do a lot of work training teachers to teach them entrepreneurship, but after that, we don't now pick them and show them the way forward.
The way forward.
You see?
I think that is where we're losing.
And the way forward is, now because you have finished school, you can access these 10,000 or 5,000 and go and do something that you desire to do. And there are many things that you can. For example, if you could hear the president when he was around here, and even in Joro, like for the last 1 week, talks about things like, he was asking a question, do you think that you want us to go and buy milk from US, from China, all those things? That means we are able to help them to do some chicken, is it farming or rearing? And have their own coin. Chickens are very, they are very, 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 very easy to keep. And then the work of the government now is to put a good market for them. Don't allow young people to do businesses, and you don't have an alternative of where they are going to sell product. If Mangicho give your son or daughter a land to do some horticulture, that is mboga or maybe maize, and then at the end of that, they have 10 bags of maize, you don't provide with them where to sell them, and even at a good price, next year, they're not going to go to that farm. Are you seeing now the connection?
I can see.
That is where now we are losing all that, all that process. No one is ready.
No one is ready. Sure.
No one is ready, Mangicho, to sit down and come up with a solid formula of solving this problem.
Exactly, and I think that is where we have a real problem.
Yes.
If the government, if actually, I totally believe, if some of these agencies, if some of these personalities can actually be sincere, Kagi, these young people, the young generation, they have very solid ideas.
Correct.
They know exactly what is it that they need to do.
Correct.
What is it that needs to be done to ensure that they actually make it. So it is not like they are doing guesswork. And one of those things that we've actually put it out very well is that at the moment, what we need to do is a creation of the right environment, creation of favorable environment for the youth to thrive in their entrepreneurship, in the businesses that maybe they want to do. Because as we speak, I totally agree, when you're talking about maybe these white-collar opportunities, as we continue, and I think with the involvement of how things are being done, they are becoming few and few. Okay, that is why you can be able to see, maybe you can hear maybe in 1 year, the number of people that have been absorbed in some of our counties, a very small number, maybe even not 100. And you can imagine vis-a-vis the large number of those who are not actually employed. So we really need to capitalize on that, and that is what we are talking about, because when you're having this team that is actually going to be recruited by the president, these are the ones that are not at the helm to help the president in terms of governance. So these are people who need to be very creative. These are people who need to really know what is it that is bedeviling the country. What is it that is bedeviling the youth? What is it that we need to be in a position to do? We're talking about infrastructure to do business. We're talking about infrastructure for investment. We are talking about what is it that we need to do to ensure that we have more and more factories to be able to absorb majority of our youth, and so on and so forth. If we don't really target that one very well, then this particular problem will continue to compound. It's going to reach a very, very...
We are in an era of digital platform, whereby young people are trying to look for ways to make coins through the digital content. Now, this is one of the richest areas that our government, our leaders need to invest in. For example, you cannot produce a content without a smartphone. Or you cannot produce a content without a good camera. And these things, Mangicho, we can do them. For example, because now we're in media, what is the cheapest, how much does the cheapest camera cost? Around 50,000. Yes. You can get a good camera. And to support our young people, what I'm trying to say is we don't sit down and look for a way to mobilize tools and resources to help them to do something. Just imagine in every ward, because we have MCAs. If in every ward, the MCA, or maybe the collaboration with the county government, they can launch a very up-to-date and classic studios for young people where they have cameras there, like 3 of them. They employ young people there, those who have studied camera work in journalism. If you feel you want to go and produce your content, you can easily walk in a studio and record a quality content in those studios. How much does it cost? Imagine in every ward in our country, Mangicho, we have a up-to-date technological studio to help our young people to produce content. They will be motivated. Those who want to do it. Sure. Because not everybody wants to produce content. Yeah. But those who want to look at that, they will be motivated to go and do it. Yeah. Where there is internet, whereby you produce your content, whereby you can upload your content there and just go home and do other stuff. You're right. Because that is where they are. They are getting good money through the digital content. But what are we doing to help them? Exactly. To achieve something? Yes. Because if you could be able to support them to produce content in their digital platforms, then we are good to go. We have millions whom we have enabled to move forward. Absolutely. Then other millions will look for other alternatives because there are different alternatives. Absolutely. And of course, we'll come back with still that and much more, even as you continue to watch us right here on The Leadership Wednesday show. Of course, we are targeting and of course our focus being on the young generation, the youth, of course, looking at the skills, the opportunities and leadership. What do you think needs to be done, the measures that need to be put into place to ensure that the challenges facing the young generation, especially at the moment or currently, can be addressed? Continue giving us your opinions on 23814 and then also on our social media pages, that is Facebook, MBCI TV, and YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. For now, we want to get into the segment that we always prepare for you in this particular program, that is the prominent faces. I think our director is ready with that particular segment. We can have a look and then we'll still come back with much more.
Today's segment on Prominent Faces, we feature the longest serving president in Africa, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo. Guinea Teodoro Obiang Nguema has been in power for 43 years. Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo is a former military officer who has served as the second president of Equatorial Guinea since August 1979. He is the second longest consecutively serving non-royal national leader in the world after Paul Biya of Cameroon. Obiang was born in the town of Akokan in Mongomo district, former Spanish Guinea, on June 5, 1942. Obiang joined the Colonial Guard and attended the General Military Academy located in Zaragoza, Spain, where he achieved the rank of lieutenant. He worked as a leader of the National Guard, governor of the province of Bioko, and head of the notorious Black Beach prison. The first president of Equatorial Guinea, Francisco Macias Nguema, was Obiang's uncle. After Macias ordered the murder of several family members, Obiang overthrew his uncle in a bloody coup d'etat in August 1979. Macias was placed in trial, sentenced to death, and executed by firing squad. As the only candidate allowed to run for the presidency, Obiang was elected initially to serve a 7-year term. He was re-elected in 1989, 1996, 2002, and 2009. He held the position of the 9th chairperson of the African Union from 2011 to 2012.
Velar por el bien común y la prosperidad de la República.
As president, Obiang holds all governing power in the nation and presides over an authoritarian regime. Under his authority, Equatorial Guinea has become a major oil supplier to the United States, and due to collecting several $100 million in revenue annually from U.S. oil company, the country has one of the highest per capita incomes in Africa. Obiang, however, has been accused of unlawful killings by his security forces, government-sanctioned kidnappings, systematic torture of prisoners, and many other cases of abuse. To this date, however, no opposition has stepped forward to attempt to overthrow the president. The government has been accused severally of abusing the rights of opponents and especially the media. His son faces corruption charges in Paris after a French prosecutor opened a probe into wealth of 3 African presidential families, Gabon and Congo Republic, the other targets. As president, he promoted his son Nguema Obiang to the position of vice president in charge of defense and security, according to a decree read on state television last year.
President of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
That is the end of this segment, Prominent Faces, the President of Equatorial Guinea, Teodoro Obiang Nguema. My name is Faith Nguema.
Señora Presidenta.
Madam President of the 73rd General Assembly of the United Nations.
Thank you so much, Faith Mwema, for that very, very informative segment. Kagi, that is Teodoro Obiang Nguema.
Yes.
Now, he came to power in 1979.
Just imagine. Since 1979. And you find there are many people in that nation who are born when he was the president, and he's still the president when they are now. Someone who was born in 1979,
Someone
I think it's around
45 years.
45?
Yes.
Yeah. You see?
45
years, they have not known any other president.
So he's ruled for 45 years?
Yes. In fact, 44 years. Yeah, I can see here, 44 years. Right? And this is where now the problem starts with the young people. When they see these kind of things, they get irritated. I was looking at the data of our African countries, how our president have really ruled. And I can give you a list of like 5 or 6 the years they have ruled. Teodoro Obiang from the Equatorial Guinea has been there for 44 years. Then the closest, as you have heard, is Paul Biya from Cameroon. He has been there since 1982, up to today. Then the other one is Denis Sassou Nguesso. The same seem to be similar. 39 years.
That is from which country?
This is Congo.
Oh, Congo.
Yes. You know, we have the Congo and we have the
Congo
DRC.
Brazzaville and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes, now this is the Congo Brazzaville.
Yes, Congo Brazzaville.
He has been there for 39 years. Then we go to our neighbors here. Kaguta Museveni, Yoweri, has been ruling for the last 37 years, not far from where we are right now. 37 years. So he has been there since 1986.
Even as we talk about the challenges that we have as a country, but I think we are far much better.
We are far much better.
If we compare ourselves.
Because our democracy, that's why our democracy should be guarded strictly, because we have our systems that we use, whereby after 10 years, your time has elapsed. Even Tanzania, they have a very good democracy.
Yes.
And we have King Mswati, you know this guy? King Mswati. Swaziland, 37 years. And he is very young, by the way. Yeah. Then we have, I didn't know this guy called Isaiah Afwerki. You have heard him from Eritrea.
From Eritrea, yeah. Okay.
I didn't know he has been there for 30 years.
30 years.
You know, Eritrea was enclaved from Ethiopia because of the civil war. They even allowed them to have their own country. It's called Eritrea. This guy has been there for the last 30 years. Simjui, King of Lesotho, 27 years. King of Djibouti, 24 years. And our neighbors here, Kagame, 23 years.
Actually, talking about Kagame, he won, I think the election was
yesterday.
The day before yesterday. I think he was announced yesterday.
99.9%.
99.9%. Actually, he had 7 million. And number 2 with 20-something thousand.
The second person.
Quite. The second person, you can imagine, 22,000.
What disturbs my mind, if you look at this kind of data, Mangicho, is only one. When someone is in the helm of power in a country for 4 consecutive decades, or 3 consecutive decades, and he can stand in front of these people and tell them that, or give them hope that we're still looking forward to have a better country. And in that country, they're still experiencing huge problems. You don't understand how things happen. If you can be President Mangicho for 44 years, what do you want to achieve you have never achieved for 44 years? And you are getting, in fact, you are now old. You are not vibrant the way you came in. If it could be like you are young, it could be better.
I think it also borders on dictatorship. It also borders on muzzling of other voices. And so you can just imagine what is it that can actually be achieved when no one else is actually supposed to speak. No one else is
like that feature. There was one sentence that said that no one has ever dared to challenge the presidency of
Obiang Gwem.
No one. No one.
Exactly. So I was just wondering, do we have elections?
Of course they are.
There are elections.
Yes, they are. Every time they are there. You see?
But it's like
I was looking at the photos of this president, those who surround him. I was just checking on the people surround him, the ministers and everybody. 90% are old men and women who surround him. And everybody asks, where now are our young people? If they cannot be given a chance to come on board, okay? Exactly. And they can do even better. For example, I was also checking on one of the youngest presidents in Africa, only in Africa, and there was one who is 36 years, very young. From Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore is from Burkina Faso, 36 years. Chad, Mohamed Deby is 39 years, he's a very young president. Then Mali is 41, Guinea 44, they're around that age. Senegal 44, Ethiopia 47, and Madagascar 49. In fact, this guy from Madagascar, Rajoelina, came in, I think, 10 years ago and was a very young person, a disc jockey, a DJ.
I remember.
And he's doing very well.
He really hit the headlines. I think there is still a lot to be done in Africa. And interestingly, some of these countries are very, very well endowed with the resources. I think those countries, especially in the West Africa, they are very well endowed with mineral resources. Okay, and it can be very unfortunate that maybe you will still find a lot of, or very, very high percentages of poverty levels in some of those countries, even as they are endowed. Why? Because of bad leadership. I think I've also heard in that documentary the issue of corruption involved, related with the son. So you can imagine. So some of these royals, some of these families that are at the helm of the leadership, they really take the other people in the country for granted. They take the advantage, they exploit them. And that is why you see sometimes when maybe we have revolution, it becomes very nasty for them. And I think we have a long way to go. And I totally agree that even as a country as Kenya, whereby we can have a president only going for 10 years, and that is a constitution, it's quite an advantage.
An advantage, and we should always be proud of our democracy.
Sure.
Because these are our continent mates, and there's nothing they can do. They have to live with it, and unless something else happens.
Exactly.
In fact, some of them are being shocked. That's why I'm saying that Kenya is really trending because of what is happening in our country, that people can go to the streets and demand their rights, and the president can give them an ear. In most countries, especially in Africa, this cannot happen. You know, our guy from Uganda called who? This opposition guy.
Dr. BCJ.
Not BCJ.
The current one.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
That young man, the name was lost. You know, that guy has really suffered just for trying to come up and to stand for presidency. He has really suffered, and he's a very young man, but he cannot be given a chance to stand as president. You see?
It's quite unfortunate. Let's have our segment on Know Your Constituency. Of course, a segment that we also prepare for you in this particular show or in this particular program. And I think watching from our screen today, Know Your Constituency, we are going all the way to Meru County. That is where we find a Igembe South constituency. It is an electoral constituency in Kenya and established in 1988 elections. That is in Meru County. The current MP is John Paul Mwirigi. John Paul Mwirigi, that is the current member of parliament for Igembe South constituency. Our previous members of parliament for this constituency are, in 1988, we had Joseph Mwenda Malebe. 1992, we had Jackson Itirithia Kalweo, clinching the seat again in 1997, Jackson Itirithia Kalweo. Then come to 2002, we have Raphael Muriongi. Then 2007, Franklin Mithika Linturi, who is the former cabinet secretary for agriculture. And then, of course, he clinched the seat again in 2013. Franklin Mithika Linturi. Then come 2017, we have John Paul Mwirigi, and of course again clinching the seat in 2022, John Paul Mwirigi. So those are some of the members of parliament that we've had in Igembe South. The wards that we find here are Giteretu and Chenge. We have Igembe Southeast, Kangeta, Njia, Maua East, Maua South, Igembe East, Igembe Southwest, Kiegoi, Mailo Tatu, Maua North, and Stadium. Those are the wards that we find there. Of course, the main economic activity also there, we find sand and also quarry mining. So there is sand and there is also quarry mining. That is Igembe South constituency, Kage.
Yeah, I thought their main economic activity of any region with that area is Mogoka, and I thought so. I'm really impressed to see that we have other ways of surviving. Sand. Yes, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you know, these plants have also been having a lot of issues in the recent past.
Yes. I've seen that young man there.
John Paul Mwirigi.
Paul Mwirigi. Yes. He's a young man. He came in the last election. Yeah, in the last term.
Actually in 2017. He really made a lot of headlines.
Yes.
I think he was the one that we were told that he was actually campaigning on a donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was being carried by a donkey.
He managed to be a member of parliament.
And he was actually gifted the first car by the former president.
Yes, I remember.
Uhuru Kenyatta. Now that he's a young man, I was just interested, and maybe Kage, that is something we're going to follow up. Now that he was elected in 2017 and re-elected in 2022, does it have anything maybe to do with some of the policies that he's been able to come up with? Is it that maybe he's addressing the main concerns of the young generation in Meru County? That could be very pivotal.
That should be our case study, because they are young leaders who have access to many resources. If they have a special program, as you have said, for the young people in their constituencies, right? They have the CDF with their own, in their own jurisdiction, And we expect that should be leading from the front to support young people from that region.
Absolutely.
Right?
And of course, it also demystified the notion that maybe for you to be elected, you have to have a lot of money. I think this is something that we've been having troubles with.
Yeah.
That those maybe who think they are so moneyed, taking advantage and saying, you cannot win an election. But this is a guy, the constituents, the locals themselves decided, this is our man, we are going to finance him.
And one of the things I would challenge our young people in this nation, that you can also help us to eradicate, is that any time that you want to stand for any position, be it MCA, MP, whoever, president, the issue of finances should not be there.
Exactly. And I think the way we are seeing now them in the social media Kagi, in 2027,
things might change.
Things are really going to change.
Yeah.
We are pressed for time, but before we bring it to a close, let's have our leadership quote for today. Our leadership quote for today, it says, to be a great leader of people, inspire them to follow you, not your rules. This is by Geoffrey I don't know if it is Gitoma. Okay, Geoffrey Gitoma. Yeah, to be a great leader of people, inspire them to follow you, not your rules. Okay, it's really making a lot of sense. If you want to be a great leader, Kagi, it's important that people are actually inspired to follow you, not necessarily the rules that you are coming. If people can be able to see that you as our leader, where you are going, and what we can see you doing is sufficiently enough for you to make us actually follow.
And I think that's where we have our leaders' role model.
Absolutely.
Right.
Sure. Thank you so much. And of course, we wind it on that particular point. We are so appreciative. We are so grateful that you've made time to be with us on the Leadership Wednesday show. Our focus being on youth skills and leadership. This is the conversation that is very, very key, very important in the country at the moment, and we all need to pull our resources together so that we can have our country going in the right direction. We'll see you again next week. My name is Mangi Chomola. Do have a blessed afternoon.
Yes, Paul Kagi is my name. Once again, I want to thank you for the time. On Friday, God willing, we have our Main Matters Friday. Blessed day ahead.